Welcome to Mindset Mastery Moments, the best growth mindset podcast recognized by Million Podcasts and ranked as a top mindset podcast by FeedSpot. We're proud to be in the top 1% on Listen Notes. Join Dr. Alisa White as we explore powerful insights and strategies to elevate your mindset. Let's dive in.
Resilience. We talk about it all the time on this show. But here's the truth. Most people think resilience is an attitude. My guest today will tell you it's a skill. And not just any skill, it's also a muscle. You can train so it's ready when life blindsides you. Now, I want you to picture this. You're in the middle of a chaotic situation. Maybe it's a boardroom crisis. Maybe it's a battlefield. Maybe it's a political summit with the whole entire world watching you. And in that moment, your mind stays sharp. Your emotions are steady. And your focus is unshakable. That's what today's conversation is all about. My guest today is Dr. Andrew Wittman, a United States Marine Corps infantry combat veteran and a former police officer, and also a former federal agent. I get so excited with this stuff. With the U.S. Capitol Police. A special agent, he led the security details for Speaker Nancy Pelosi, personally protected world leaders and icons like Hillary Clinton, Benjamin Netanyahu, King Abdullah of Jordan, and even Sir Elton John. He's gone all the way from music I love to people I am curious about. Now, y'all know I'm going to get nosy. As a private military contractor from the U.S. State Department, he trained former Navy SEALs, Marine Army Rangers, and Special Forces operators in high-threat diplomatic security. And now, he's not done. He's just getting started. He equips executive teams and frontline leaders with the same tactical tools for mental and emotional resilience through his signature program, his armor called the Resilience System. He is an author of the Inner Armor Perpetual Resilience, TM, a field manual for building emotional sovereignty and thriving in chaos. Man, I know he knows how to do that. And today he is here at Mindset Mastery Moments to show us why motivation fades, but mental muscle memory never ever does. Ooh, Dr. Andrew Wittman, commonly called Andy. Welcome to Mindset Mastery Moments. I'm so glad you're here. Into tactics, I have to ask you a question, Dr. Andrew. When was the moment you first realized that resilience wasn't just an attitude, but something you could physically train and strengthen like any muscle?
Oh, you just jumped right into it, didn't you?
Couldn't wait.
Right? You can. It was kind of an evolution, a journey, right? But I think at the time where I was a rookie cop on the street. I mean, this is after my Marine Corps career, and I went to Bible college, and I was like, I need to, I miss my regimented lifestyle, so I went back into law enforcement, getting uniform, and I'm a street cop. And that first time I was in a fight where I was losing the fight, and the bad guy was trying to take my gun, and I knew he was trying to kill me because he told me that. And I thought, if I don't I have to give my best effort. Like, losing is not an option here. And so that becomes my benchmark of what's my best effort. People are like, well, I did my best. Well, did you really? Because did my best doesn't really. This is how I'm doing my best. This is my level of doing my best. So I think at that point, you thought, you can't wait till someone's trying to take your gun from you. You can't wait until the house is destroyed in a hurricane that happens here in Florida or some disaster to see if you could bounce back. So exactly. We want to I want to be proactive. That's why I call it perpetual resilience. And it's a skill that you train like a muscle, because you never want to let it slip, but it can slip. It's a perishable skill, right? Like riding a bike. Like, you never forget how to ride a bike, but look, you're going to be shaky on that thing if you haven't been on it in 20 years. So I think when you're going through stuff like that, and that's just one situation that stands out of my mind, is I was like, because that's my level of best effort. That's where I tag myself that, when I say, did I do my best? I knew I could hardly breathe when we were done. I got him handcuffed and I couldn't even hardly stand up because you left everything, on the mat, if you will. Like, everything was on the field that day. You had to, because there was no But you could take that same, so if I could do it once, then I know you could, and it's in the human to do it. And you hear stories about like moms who are like the kids are in a car accident, the kids are trapped by the car, and they have this supernatural strength where they just lift the car up, But how do we tap into those things, right? So we know that the body can do these things, and the mind can do these things, and the emotions can do these things. How do we do it every day? I don't want to wait till a disaster happens before we tap into these things. So I guess that's when I really figured out, when I'm like, I could repeat this.
Right. That's when you figure out it's a muscle. Take us back to before you learned what resilience looked like in that moment. What was life like for you growing up? What is the makings of a man who has journeyed your pathway and is doing what you're doing today? Give us a little bit of backstory.
Yeah, okay. So my mom and dad were missionaries, and I was brought up in a town called Wagga Wagga, New South Wales in Australia, halfway between Sydney and Melbourne. It was a little country town. Yeah, it was in the 80s. There was about 30,000 people in the town. There was 4 Americans, my mom and dad and my little brother and I, And so we show up, we're in this town, and, Australians, they like slang and nicknames, but I was the fat kid. I was 5'3" and weighed 185, so they called me Beach Ball, right? So, hey, Beach Ball. Yeah, and the nice nickname was Chuck, like Charlie Brown. Hey, Chuck, like Chuck and Beach Ball. So, but I was weak, and bullies could spot that stuff. So I would be bullied, and I couldn't fight back. I'm a missionary's kid, and then I'm scared, and so then I turned to food for comfort, and now I become a literal bigger target, for the bullies. And I didn't want to live my life like I thought. I got to get control of this. I can't live my life in fear and anxiety and be weak and bullied and not control my weight or control, I didn't like how I looked. I didn't like, all these things. I mean, so instead of I was supposed to go to Bible college, 5 out of 6, I was the 5th out of 6 kids, and I'm the one supposed to go in the ministry. And I was like, I can't do it. I can't lead others if I can't even lead myself. So I enlisted in the Marine Corps so I could get control of what I call the machine, my body, mind, and emotions. And that I lost 50 pounds in boot camp and learned how to, this mental toughness or resilience. You just, hey, if you're hurt, get up, rub some dirt on it, drink some water, and get back into the fight. You know what I mean? Like, stop crying on the side of the road, bro. So that's kind of how it started, right? And now it became my obsession to get control of myself and to kick fear and anxiety out of and to be resilient, to be mentally tough, to be, not just physically tough, but mentally and emotionally tough too. Like, yes. When I say tough, I mean, unbreakable, unshakable, that I'll handle whatever life throws at my way, and I'll be the solution to whatever problem. And that's, I guess, my origin story. Not as cool as getting bit by a radioactive spider like Peter Parker or whatever, but it's a pretty good origin.
We all wish we were at some point. Right? I mean, it's funny. As a kid, I wanted to be Superman, Spider-Man, well, a woman, of course. And then I found out there was Wonder Woman, and it was over.
Yeah, there you go.
My goodness, such amazing. So you've said resilience is like a muscle, and I really love that. That is really someone listening. We talk about resilience a lot, but that's one of my favorite terms I've heard it called, and I subscribe to, is it being a muscle, because a lot of people feel like, well, what am I supposed to do? And, they're in that, I say, more of a victim mindset. You train it, you build it, it gets stronger, right? So if it's something, my question for you, do you feel like some people are born with a level of, well, not necessarily born, but they are raised with a level of resilience?
Yeah, well, a lot of people are raised with it. Like I wasn't, but there's other people that were tougher than me. Like so in your environment is, that's the nurture versus nature thing, right? Right. I think all of us have in our DNA, the human machine, the way it works, because I studied it relentlessly. How does the body, mind, and emotions work together? What's the brain? Neuroscience is so good at helping us understand these things and how our brains and we perceive things enacts with the endocrine system and kicks hormones out that sustain our reactions or our responses. And you can't ever fight your biology, I like to say. So all of us have different genetic potentials, but we all have the ability, because we do it all. Everything that I teach in Inner Armor, we already do it. I'm not telling you to do anything you're not doing. I'm just pointing it in the right direction. Right. So, like, here's an example. If you get in traffic, if you get cut off in traffic and you're like, that's your bad son of a, and you're rehearsing that, the neurological loop, you've created a neurological highway, right? And you keep practicing that. And the way the body works and the brain works is that you get very efficient and fast at that, and it gets faster and more efficient every time. So now it gets really difficult. Now it's part of your makeup. So when that happens, you automatically do it. It's almost like, the other day I bumped my head and I was like, ouch. And I'm like, that didn't even hurt. Why am I saying ouch? It's just because we were brought up that we were just saying ouch. I'm like, it didn't hurt. I mean, it hurt the wall that hurt me, right? So I want to do is take these neurological superhighways and point them in a direction that helps me. And so I'm gonna train how I respond. I pre-decide this is how I'm going to be, and then I just live rep it. I just practice it, and I practice it on little stuff. The way the brain works is that this willpower, right, is not, it is a muscle, and we know that. It gets bigger, that section of the brain fires off, it's stronger, it lasts longer, more endurance, just like the heart pumping. So every time that you do something you don't want to do, no matter how small it is, you're actually exercising that muscle, that resilience muscle, we call it, even though it's neurons. It's a neurological system thing, but I call it a muscle because it's easier for us to get our heads around it. So I don't like cleaning the babathroom. So every time I get up and clean the bathroom, I'm exercising resilience. Yeah, so now I'm giving myself points. Right, I'm getting points for that, man. I'm telling you, while I'm cleaning the thing, I'm like, I'm exercising my resilience. Not like, oh, I gotta go clean the bathroom. Right? Are you following that? Like, that's how easy this stuff really is.
It is. It's really, and I love that you said it's easy, because I know a lot of people get aggravated when it's like, yeah, it's easy for you to say. And I always go, I know you're saying it's easy for me to say, but if you just try it, and that's because of that muscle, whether it's resilience, whether it's generating, good, proper habits of taking care of your body, your mind, your spiritual being, whatever it is, it's all a muscle.
Right. All those things that you do, everything that you do builds towards that resilience. Like, there's not one thing that you don't do, like take care of your spiritual side or your body and your nutrition and your sleep. Every time you do that, every time you pick carrots over Twinkies, that you just did a workout. Like, congratulate yourself.
There you go. Exactly. And it becomes a habit, and you can backpedal and forward pedal all the time. Same. You could change it. When you introduce it, if you repeat, then it becomes, that's where you build the memory. So walk us through the philosophy behind inner armor. How did you take the lesson from the battlefield and security detail and translate them into something a CEO, a teacher, a parent, anyone could apply to their daily life?
So again, that's the journey, right? I took all the things I learned from the Marine Corps, and then I went to Bible college. My PhD's in theology, right? So, and my master's is Master of Divinity Psychology. So study of the God is theology, study of the soul, psychology. So after I take the warrior culture, I'm working through this stuff, and then I go into law enforcement where I'm dealing with people, and sometimes you walk into a domestic violence situation, or sometimes, like I said, someone's trying to steal my gun from me, and sometimes it's, kids throwing eggs on a house, right? So you don't know what it's going to be at any second. Right, you don't know what it's going to be, right? So you work through. So I'm taking these principles that I've learned, and then I study in deeper. How do I get my body, mind, and emotions to work for me instead of against me? And then I become an agent. I went to D.C., and my great claim to fame is I was the agent in charge of Nancy Pelosi's detail, right? And then I really got a hold of this, because people would be like, well, that was, what if, there was like an attack? I'm like, an attack is easy. We train, contact left, contact right, we train for that. It's already happened.
Yes.
The hard part is when you're on the beltway and she's in the back and somebody cuts you off, and you have to be totally cool and quiet about it and say nothing and act like nothing happened, because you're not disturbing her phone call in the back, or she's reading, right? That's hard, because holy cow, right? You got to be like a duck on water. So I was like, well, I was thinking, I'm like, if I could do this for her, I surely should be able to do it for my wife and my kids and myself while I'm in the car. I should be able to control myself, right? So it began to put all these things together, and then started really studying the neuroscience and the biopsychology, the performance psychology, but also how does the hormones and the endocrine system, and how, the fight, flight, or freeze mechanism works, and how does, and so I just got obsessed with that kind of stuff, and really just dug in and study, read textbooks. My wife would laugh at me. She's like, you're just reading textbooks. I'm like, no, I'm learning all this stuff, So I guess that's kind of how, and then when I left Capitol Police, I went to the State Department. And what they hired me to do, because I was a Marine infantry combat, I had the hard military skills, but I also had all call the dignitary protection agent skills. And we're trying to take SEALs, Marines, Rangers, and Special Forces. I need their hard skills because I'm going to put them in missions in Afghanistan to protect the ambassador or whatever, right? But I can't have them acting like it's a military mission because it's not. It's a diplomatic mission, right? So we had to teach them, right, it's right. So we had to teach them critical thinking, and I call it emotional intelligence. Mental toughness is a combination of critical thinking and emotional intelligence, so that I'm acting on a threat, but I have to be able to articulate. I got to know that that's actually a threat. I had to go through a certain thought process, and I have to keep my emotions completely under control and out of my decision-making process. So I was teaching this curriculum to them. I ran 4 deployments missions for 4 deployments in Afghanistan. I did 1 to Jordan, 1 to Kosovo. And I was like, I was just getting tired of getting shot at for a living, to be honest with you, and not having plumbing or air conditioning. And, and I'd come home from deployment, and there's another giant screen TV in my house. I'm like, well, they're doing good on what I'm sending home, but I can't watch any TV. But I was like, I decided I could sell this to corporate, right? I could train corporate people this, and it would be very helpful to them. And so because of my time in the State Department, that helped me and my time at Capitol Police, it helped me to merge the warrior culture with the highest levels of political thinkers and scientists and businessmen and artists and then the diplomacy of the State Department, and then being able to package it in a way that corporate could take the best of the warrior culture, but I'm not, we're not doing, SEAL training. Okay, everybody pick up that telephone pole. We're going to run 12 miles, and that's going to make you tough. But yeah, it will, but it's not going to help me, make my third quarter goal.
Exactly. My KPIs will not be helped.
Right.
It's all about the KPIs. So you also use the phrase emotional sovereignty. That is so cool, right? I love it, love it, love it. Nice. What does it mean, and why is it foundational for thriving when everything around you just
That's such a great question. So sovereignty just means like the domain. Like if the word kingdom means king's domain, right? So sovereignty is I have dominion over my emotional sovereignty is I have dominion over my emotions. They're mine. Nobody can make me feel anybody like you made me feel, whatever. No one can make you feel angry without your permission. No one can make you feel depressed without your permission. No one can make you feel happy without your permission. Exactly. Right? They're yours. Whose emotions are they? They're yours. So I'm going to take dominion over my emotions. I'm not saying don't feel your emotions. They're great. We love them, but they are not running the show. Like I feel my feelings, but I don't make my decisions based on it.
Absolutely. I love that term, and I'm going to cite you every time I use it, because that is the one, the theory is think, speak, do, become, but I always tell everyone the lacing, the thread among those 4 pillars is our feelings and emotions. And so someone asked me do I feel something before I think? And I'm like, well, it could be both. Because it feels like it's a little spider, like a little web spinning between emotion and
it does get very spiderwebby, because sometimes, your past experience and your perception of things, your opinion of something, we all prejudge things. And what you did in the past, so that could precede what your thought is, because you're bringing baggage with you, right? So what we know about how the brain works, we take in 11 million bits of information per second, right? Through what we see, hear, touch, 11 million bits. We're just sucking up massive, but only 126 bits go to our conscious mind for action. Right. So we literally filter all that and then discard 99.9% of the information and act on the 0.1%.
Right.
What they found out is the way that we pick that 126 is what our thoughts are, what our attitudes are, our opinions, our past experience, then the environment we grew up in, what our our opinions are about something, which is a soft word for beliefs. What our core beliefs are. We might believe, so all those things go in. So the emotions can come before the thought, or it could come after the thought. But I will tell you, what you feel in your body, the hormones are always after. Right, what I call the hormone dump. Like, have you ever been like in a near wreck, like in a car accident, where like slamming on the brakes, horns honk, but nothing hit, nothing happened.
Too many times.
Right, and then after, it's all safe, but then afterwards your heart starts pounding.
Yes.
Right, that's what we call the hormone dump. So what the brain does is it looks at a set of facts, and you look at it and you take it in and you decide. You really have like a very short window to decide, is this a threat, is this dangerous? Very short. But you have 2 minutes to change that perception before the hormones come to sustain that response. So you were scared, oh my gosh, then it's fight, flight, or freeze. You don't change that. You have like 2 minutes before you're flooded with cortisol and adrenaline, and then you have 20 minutes before that leaves your system. So you can't even be rational or really have logical thinking. So you really have this very short window to change your perception. Go, oh, that's not dangerous. And then I'm going to change what my hormones are that are called up by my brain based on how I perceive something. So that's huge. Yeah. So that's how you control these things, is I control my perception.
Control your perception. I love that. One of the things I appreciate about your work is that it's not just theory. It's also very, very practical. So one of two things that I love that you talk about is those 2-minute drills from building mental toughness, something that even the busiest leader can integrate without overhauling their schedule. I can't wait to hear about this.
Well, this whole thing was built for the Marine Corps, right? So the chaplain of the Marine Corps called me and said, hey, the commandant said PTSD and suicide rates, emotional breakdowns. We can't move the needle with therapy. We're not doing it with drugs. We're not doing it with counseling. Is there anything you could do for the spiritual fitness of the warfighter? I'm like, yeah. So, but I was in the Marine Corps, so I know we don't have time to go to the suicide awareness class. And if we do, we forgot about it 10 minutes later because we're back in the field. So I built this whole thing to be a workout of the day, just like we did, in the Marine Corps, you get up, you do 10 push-ups, right? Like that. So you get up, you do your push-ups, and then and so it's an all day, but it's little snippets. So these drills are all short, and I stack them with habits. Like you could do it while you're brushing your teeth. If you brush your teeth, you could do what I'm about to tell you. You have the time because you're already, what are you doing when you're brushing your teeth? Just waste the time, So here's one of the two. Everything we do is try to package it in those 2 minutes. But here's a great two. So what my original 2-minute rule is this. Now, when you hear that voice of resistance on the inside, if you're a leader, whatever you're up against, that you can't do it, this isn't possible, that won't work, that's crazy talk, we can't do that, just for 2 minutes, suspend your disbelief. Like, because you do this when you're watching a movie. If you ever watched a movie you liked, you suspended your disbelief because we know those things ain't real. They're Hollywooded up, right? So for an hour and a half, we've suspended our disbelief and enjoyed the ride. So for 2 minutes, you could do it. I'm not telling you anything. In 2 minutes.
No different than 90 seconds on a roller coaster.
You could do it. So what we're going to do when we hear the voice of resistance is just for 2 minutes say, okay, I get it. It's impossible. But for fantasy, I'm just going to play this game for fantasy. If it were possible, how would I do it? So whatever that, so I'm going to take 2 minutes of cognitive space and let my brain take it permission. And I'm giving it permission to go find an answer, because when you say I can't, your brain never goes against your genius self. Your brain says we can't, then it's like, okay, we can't. Or if it says I don't know, we don't know.
It's a command center.
It is 100%. And so we want to say, how would I do it? And let it give us, options. Like as many options as we could think of, and just let your brain run. So for 2 minutes, okay, it's impossible, I get it. But if it were possible, how would I do it?
Exactly. If it were possible, how would I do it? Give yourself 2 minutes. And I love to remind everyone that when you start doing that and you're thinking about it and you start to create those pictures in your brain, or you're going through that exercise mentally, it's still going mind to body as well. Your body is getting signals that you've actually done this thing, even though you haven't done it yet.
Correct. Right. And because the brain doesn't know the difference between what's rehearsed and what's actually real. That's why your dreams feel so like real. You're like, in the dream, like this is not following the laws of physics, but you're like, it doesn't matter. It still feels exactly right.
I was in combat a week ago, and I was fighting, and I was like, why am I always in uniform? The problem is, make it make sense. But I think as a child, I really wanted to be in military. My dad, who was military, did not want me to be at all. So I think maybe somewhere I go off in fantasy island.
Yeah. Right. The plane, boss, the plane. No, I totally get it. As a parent, now I understand why my parents didn't want me joining, because I have kids. I'm like, I don't want you guys going in there. So I get it as a parent,
I never got it. Still don't. I think the only thing I got was that, I was his first child and I'm a girl, so he just didn't want me to be like tough or whatever. But I look girly girl, but I'm not. I'm just me. I'm either one. Very.
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean,
I was getting off the plane, getting my hand luggage, and I know I'm short. I'm like 4'11", right? So a lot of people can't tell from me sitting on the camera. So I'm such a petite little person, about 123 pounds. And this little old lady see me trying to get my bag, and she probably felt like, no, she shouldn't. And she's like, I'm swear she's almost about 72, 78 in my opinion. And she's like, let me help you. I'm like, no, I got it. I took it down and I just got it. And she's like, she's like, oh my God, she's so strong. But I work out. I lift a lot of weights to keep my, body where it needs to be. And that's the muscle I built. But it's just so funny how much when you have that resilient mindset too, you just kind of power through things. I think about that, me flexing my muscles like that. It's because I've done it several times in my mind and then I continue to do it. So reaching for stuff that's what I do my whole life. I'm short.
Well, I'm tall. I'm 6'5", and I would have to, airplanes are a different problem for me. I don't fit.
Right. I
can't get in the seat. I mean, I just you can't even sit in it. So.
I saw how tall you are, and when you were in combat, I'm like, they're probably scared. They're like, who is that? And I'm like, how hard it is for him to be like hiding.
Yeah, no, it's very difficult. That's why like guys my size aren't really in special forces because they're usually like 5'7", 5'8", so they're low center of gravity. I'm going through the jungle. I'm getting caught on every branch and vine, and
It's so funny. That's funny. You draw the distinction between first responders and first reactors. This is for me. So powerful. How can someone train themselves to respond with calm instead of react emotionally in crisis? Can I just say one of my biggest pet peeves are people who get all emotional and get in a frenzy. I'm kind and I'm patient, but I just want them gone. I'm like, out of here.
Yeah.
Get him out of here.
Right. Well, because that kind of stuff, I mean, it's like it's dangerous because it's contagious.
Yeah.
Right. So, and other people begin to panic as well. But so here's what I'm going to give you. Like you said, everything I do is practical. Right. I mean, I read the theory and the science. So then how can I use it? Like I don't really care about the theory. I just want to know how I can use it. Right. Here's a great, I want to call it a hack or a tip because I don't even like those things. But this is what helped me.
Right.
Yeah, I'm in law enforcement. Have you ever made a 911 call or heard one on TV or on radio?
Of course. Yeah.
Right. Is the 911 operator like, the house is on fire? Oh my gosh, the house is on fire. God. Correct. Right. So they're trained. So what I want to do is channel the 911 operator. And the first thing they ask, 911, what's your emergency? So this is the first thing I'm going to ask. The brain is the original search engine. I'm going to ask this question. What's the emergency? Now, the brain registers anything that it thinks is urgent as an emergency. If it's urgency, the brain immediately says emergency. And I ask this question, is it an emergency? 99% of the time, it's not an emergency, and it's not even urgent. It's just somebody who's, ramping you up with something. Right. We got to get this done. Oh, who said? Who told you that? So I'm going to channel the 911. 911, what's your emergency? And then they begin asking questions, right? What's your name? What's your address? Where are you? What are the injuries? What's the facts on the ground? It's gathering facts and information. And then when they get enough facts, then they pass that on to either the firefighters, the EMS, or the police, and those guys or gals form a response on the way there. They have a plan of response. They're not going in blind. They take the information that they gathered, and then they form a plan of response. So they're not just reacting. Oh my gosh, the house is on fire. No, we would all not like that if the firefighter showed up and freaked out.
Exactly.
Right. So that's what we want to do is be a first responder. 911, what's your emergency? I mean, when somebody's figured out, I'll be like, I'll even do it like in the office. I'll be like, 911, what's your emergency? They'll be like, what? I mean, it just totally breaks the whole.
That is such a great idea too. I love that. Because, and it's funny, me and my colleagues, we talk about getting on the phone with a coaching client that, you're coaching them in business. I tell people no matter what you coach on, you're going to do life coaching. So just go ahead and figure some stuff out.
Just go there. Yeah. It's going to end up there anyway.
But somehow, honestly, a lot of times I'm like, people actually know what they got clarity on business and career, but they can't connect to the clarity because they have so much life stuff going on, So I'm thinking about what you said, and I'm like, I want to, when they start veering off to wild, crazy stuff that has nothing to do, is say, how about 911? What is your emergency? Because one thing you're going to do when that operator says that, you're going to calm down, or she's going to calm here, she's going to get you calm, because they can't have a conversation with you. It's like, you want to pull that out. Every time you get to
you're like, 911, what's your emergency? It's just like it's a scripted line. We already know what it is. It's like you just make it part of your routine. You know what I mean?
I know. I could see myself doing it all the time and just laughing out loud.
It is funny because it does break, like it's a great way actually to break the urgency loop in your brain, in their brain too, because they're thinking it's an emergency because they've practiced it so many times. So anything they think is urgent is an emergency, and it's not. So you kind of have to break that neurological loop for them sometimes.
And the key is it might be an emergency to you, but your ability to walk through it with clarity and bring resolution or a solution it is harder when you're frantic.
Yeah, you just can't do it. You can't do it because you have the hormone dump. Once you have that hormone dump, fight, flight, or freeze. We know this from neuroscience. The prefrontal cortex, the executive decision maker, the part that makes you be able to solve problems, goes completely dark, and all of the electrochemical reactions are happening in the amygdala, fight, flight, or freeze. I'm just in survival and protection mode. I can't solve problems. Yeah.
Amazingly, how many, as you're out and about, it's like I literally just want to stay home most days these days. So many people are just living there.
Right. And they've trained it. See, they've trained it. They've habit stacked that. So now that's become their, and again, the brain's super efficient and it gets faster every time. So they're automatically just going there, and they don't even like it. They don't like it. They might not even be aware that they're doing it, and they don't know how to stop.
What do you think is responsible for the widespread?
There's a couple of things. I mean, first off, we don't teach critical thinking or this decision-making matrix or emotional sovereignty in schools. We teach them to be good little drones and employees when they grow up, right? That we want them to follow the rules. I don't want you to think for yourself. You don't think out of the box. I'm going to give you the answer, memorize the answer. That's the answer. So if it's anything that's outside that framework of here's the answer, memorize the answer, and if you don't tell me that's the answer, then you're getting punished, then we've created generations that cannot handle anything that's outside that box, right? So this stuff, and that's why I say they don't teach critical thinking. You have to train it too. You have to practice these thoughts. You have to practice these drills. You can't just like when you're driving a car, right? So it'd be like if you went to a driver's ed class for 4 hours and then they just gave you your license, but you never got behind the wheel. You didn't do no hours behind the wheel. No, well, you went to class. Here you go. You're a driver now. Like what? No, you can't teach driving. You have to train driving.
You have to train. Come on.
Yes. So it's the same thing with emotional sovereignty and critical thinking. You can't teach it. You have to train it.
And that is the biggest, that's why I'm so, Dr. Wittman, I'm so big on mindset. Because when I think about the umbrella of mindset, for me, it's that practical developing skill of knowing what your belief systems are, what your values are, connecting with your true God-given purpose, and then being able to walk in it and understanding how it will change throughout life, but you get to build skills. We also talk about skills, gifts, and abilities being one thing, but that muscle of, lack of a better word, and I love to use it, stick-to-itiveness, right? Is so much. And I also talk about your education can only get you so far, but your character is what keeps you there. So again, it's that marriage that I really believe that's something that's so lacking, why I'm so big on people learning and training themselves how to think. But it's way deeper than just mindset. There's all of what you're talking about, this emotional sovereignty, and then also leadership. And of course, self-leadership, a big one. So talk to us, Dr. Wittman, because you've led life or death environments and you've even trained others the same. Let's talk about leadership under fire. What does that mean?
Right. So that was the first program, my flagship program. I called it Ground Zero Leadership CEO View. Right. So.
Yeah.
So I know, right? Buckle up. Here we go. So I heard the great John Maxwell. He's the great leadership guru.
Yes,
John.
I'm a Maxwell.
Yeah. So he says, right, leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. And I'm like, I'm OC. I'm a ring OC. Right. So he said that. So I'm like, I can't go with that. So I'm a root word. I study the root words. I want to go where they came from. So I'm digging into this word leadership, and I find out it comes from the Old English, like in the medieval times, and it derives from the word craftsmanship, like a blacksmith or a carpenter, a woodworker. And what leadership means is skill, like a craftsman beating on, the iron in influencing attitudes, opinions, course of direction, and action. So I'm like, okay, before I can do that, I can't give anybody anything I don't have. If I didn't have $100, at least I can't give it to you, right? So I'm like, before I can influence other people's stuff, I need to influence mine. That's ground zero. I created the whole thing. Like, I got to get my own thoughts in control. I got to get my own attitudes and opinions, my own actions, right? All that stuff. So here's the core of that whole CEO of You is that's what I do is I hire everybody to be the CEO of themselves incorporated, CEO of You Incorporated. And your job as CEO of You is to get your board of directors to work together for you to have a better life instead of against each other. And your board of directors is your body, mind, and emotions, right? And so if you have a boardroom meeting with yourself, who wins the vote, body, mind, or emotions? And, people are like, I'm like, well, you ever made an emotional decision? How'd that work out, right? But then they all say, like, the mind should be running the boardroom. I'm like, okay, so how do we get that done? So the way we do that is that the body is the swing vote, right? There's 3 votes. And the emotions and the mind will never vote together. It's like the State Department and the Department of Defense, right? They'll always be against each other. So the body gets to decide who's going to run the boardroom. So if you don't dominate, that's why I love that you work out. You're a candidate for having the mind to run the boardroom, because if you don't do those things you don't feel like doing, like working out. I don't feel like working out. Well, I'm doing it. I'm working out. Now you have a chance for your body to team up with your mind, and you make good decisions.
Yes.
So, and this, how do we get what does the mind do when it takes over? That's the critical thinking piece, right? So I always ask people, I'm like, hey man, do you have like a process of how you think your thoughts, or is it just like a jungle up there? They're like, what? I'm like, well, when I started really getting a hold of this, I started to look at thinking as a physical skill. Like a golf swing, right? The golf swing has like grip and stance and how you hold the club and where the hips are moving. And so I'm like, there's a process, just like when driving a car. You get in, you pull the door open, you get into the seat, you buckle the seatbelt, you turn. There's a process. What if I looked at thinking as a physical process? So I was like, all right, let's look onto that. And it's critical thinking is the best way that has been in the history of Western civilization, probably Eastern too, but I know Western civ, Socratic method, right? Socrates, the Socratic method of critical thinking. It's used widely in academia, but it's 9 steps. And I'm like, if I go through 9 steps, I will get killed in a firefight. I will not have time to be like, oh, hang on, that's what inductive. Right? I'm like, I ain't got any time for that. So I took the 4 steps that get you 90% of the way there, right? The 4 steps that'll keep you, thriving, not just surviving, but thriving. And it's really two steps. I call it thinking like crap, CRAP, so you can't forget it.
Thinking like crap.
Right. So, and it's clarity, relevance, accuracy, and precision. So the first thing that a critical thinker does is decide their target, what they do want, not what they don't want, because people could tell you, I don't want this and I don't want that. Listen, I used to train snipers, right? So what if we're a 2-man team? What if you and I were a 2-man team and we're in Afghanistan and you're the spotter and I'm the sniper, and you're like, okay, Andrew, what's the target? I'm like, see that rock over there? You're like, yeah. And I go, that's not it. And you're like, okay, well, what's the target? All right, see that tree at 500 meters? Yeah, that's not it. And then we're doing all this target elimination. Meanwhile, a battalion of bad guys just ran, it's walked right past us. So you need to know, a sniper will never deploy behind enemy lines without knowing their target. We don't say, that's not the target, that's not the target. Sniper says, this is the target, or else I'm not going on the mission. So the critical thinker needs to think, this is my target. That's every email, every phone conversation. When I came on this show, I had a specific target, right? And what I wanted to accomplish tonight. And every conversation we should be thinking that. So my first thought should be, what is it that I'm trying to accomplish here? Once you clearly define your target, then the R relevance becomes very easy, which is what you were just talking about a minute ago. I call it the sand traps and the water obstacles relevant. Well, no, to the golfer, the target is the hole. If I say don't hit it in the sand trap, where's the ball going? In the sand trap. So I need to take anything that's not relevant to me hitting my target off the board. And with this question, here's the question. Yeah, everybody should write this down. This is where this is huge right here. Once you clearly define your target, every decision you make is already made with this question. Does this help me or hurt me hit my target?
Come on. I just had a conversation about that about 2 hours before we got on this.
But it's true. Is my emotional reaction helping me or hurting me? Is my personal opinion helping me or hurting me? Is my ego helping me or hurting me? Right. So that's the first 2 steps in critical thinking. So then accuracy and precision. Accuracy is, in my law enforcement career, I found out that truth and facts are 2 different things. Facts are what gets entered into evidence. The witnesses swear to tell the truth, and the witnesses are not reliable. Even though they're not lying, one saw a green sweater, one saw a brown sweater, and in fact, it was a blue sweater. So what a critical thinker does is they identify these truths and they try to move it to the fact column. Like an example is like somebody says, you disrespected me. Well, that's a truth, right? So I'm going to ask you, okay, I understand that you feel disrespected, but what are the facts of my behavior that made you come to that conclusion? Oh, you rolled your eyes, you put your hands on your hips, or you crossed your, okay, now I have facts. And then I can say, yeah, I could see how you would see that was disrespectful.
And now I can avoid or continue to do such said behavior so I can get the response I want from you.
Right. Are you following that? So that's how we want to move. A critical thinker always moves truths, which is somebody's perception or their opinion, into the fact column. And then the precision, right? We want to get very precise with the facts. Vague is a disaster. Specific things are a disaster. Yeah, let's do lunch sometime. Well, let's do lunch on Friday. All right, Friday's a fact. That's good. We're getting there. But Friday's a big, let's go to lunch on Friday at 12 p.m. All right, noon, right? Now, what time zone are we in? Because you're in a different time zone than me. So we could be like, we're not, if we don't have our, watches synced up, knowing what time we're supposed to be, so we'll miss each other. So this is the kind of thing the critical thinker goes through that process. And when you do that, you kind of force everybody else to do it around you.
Yeah. I love it. Get a hold of this crap.
Yeah, right? I had a client, I coached her like 10 years ago. She called up and she's like, I'm in a spot. I'm like, what's my crap? I can't think of what I do want. I'm like, what? It's like
definitely coming back to this crap.
Right.
I love it. This is the best crap ever. Like this is the kind of crap you want to keep.
Right.
You can clean. I mean, I'm sitting here going through the steps to do. I'm like, man, he made one of the most crappiest word most valuable.
I just don't want you to forget it, right? You just don't forget it. I mean, you can't forget it. You're like,
oh my goodness.
But I'm not allowed to say in church, but
I know, right? But you guys get the point. It's a play on words, but it holds up. So you always talk about too, the calm is contagious for leaders right now. How can they develop this presence so that their teams feel it, even in these uncertain times? Because there's a lot of uncertainty in the corporate world. In the leadership space, so many layoffs and,
AI and crypto and geopolitical.
Everything's just
we don't know, right?
everywhere.
So it's complete chaos. So this is practiced. It's, practice it at home. And I mean, you have opportunities every day to get upset at home and not be calm. Like, okay, that somebody didn't take the trash out and we had chicken last night and now the whole house smells like a dumpster. Right, be like, who did take the trash out? Or someone forgot to turn the light off. Are we freaking out? That the car, all these things. These are every time is another chance for you to be like, all right, what 911? What's my emergency? It's not an emergency. Let's just take the trash out now and throw some Febreze in here. We'll be good. Open a window, right? So you practice these things like that. And then if you wait, and this is another thing I say, right? You'll never rise to the occasion. You're always going to fall to your training. You're going to fall to the level of what you rehearse. You're going to fall to what you practice. You'll never rise to the occasion. So train these things. These are these small things where there's not high stakes in your house because, your family loves you, even at it's really great when you go to like Thanksgiving with the crazy, nephews or aunts, and you're just like, I know this is going to be one of those conversations. Just look at it as like your live lab. I'm going to like, this is like, I get invited. I don't go to these things because I don't, I just don't have the mental energy, but you want me at your Thanksgiving dinner because what I'm going to do is bring peace and stability.
Yes.
And, across, and so everybody wants you there, but it's so much work. Because I'm like the cognitive energy that I have to put into having emotional sovereignty, and then I have to keep yours sovereign. I have to keep you talk you off the wall, right? So you got to look at it as you're practicing. So when it does go crazy, then you'll be the one everybody looks at too. Does that make sense?
Love it. I so love it. Whoa! Oh my gosh, this is just going by so quickly. We're gonna have you back, Dr. Wittman. So we have a tradition here at Mindset Mastery Moments called Flip the Script. So it's where you get to tell us a time when you had completely flipped the script, a moment where your mindset had to shift in a big way and how it transformed you or the outcomes that you were looking for.
Wow. Well, you're really digging deep. You did warn me. You said you were going to.
I feel like I don't have enough time to go into everything.
I know, right? So this is kind of it's not really a fun one. It's like, but it makes me like Andrew was an idiot, So yeah, I know, right? Everybody loves that. Hey, Andrew's an idiot. I knew it. I knew that guy. But it really, it's like not anything. You think it's special. I'm not that special. I mean, so I was taking Nancy Pelosi to San Francisco. We would go out there, when Congress wasn't in session. And so we're going and we were leaving at, it was like 4 a.m. I had to get up and go. We had to go to the White House first for the intel brief. And then there was a bunch of stuff. And then we're going to get on the plane. And then we have an event that night in California, but it wasn't until like 7 o'clock at night. But I've been up on East Coast time since 4 a.m, right? So I'm already like I'm smoked, and right? I never forget my vest. I always wear my body. For one reason, I don't know what happened was like I washed it and I didn't put it in the spot where it always is. Do you know what I'm talking about? And I went out the door without it and forgot it 4 in the morning. But you do the loops, right? So we're at this steakhouse, and downstairs is where I'm with her at an event. I mean, it's like $10 million a year. I mean, $10 million, like a year plus net worth in here. It's like a high-end birthday party for somebody in their circle. So there's like a ton of super mega rich people. You know, it's Silicon Valley, San Francisco. It's tech. And upstairs, this is a historic steakhouse, and the upstairs was like this boys' Catholic school reunion. So it's getting wild up there, right? So I'm like on the stairs trying to keep them from coming down, and keeping them separate, right? So one of the wait staff came to me and said, "Hey, there's somebody out there with a big gun raving it around, threatening people." I'm like, "Oh man, here we go." So they're up on the second floor, above the steakhouse. So I walk out into the street, and I'm like, and then it hits me while I'm standing under the window in the street that I have left my vest.
Oh my gosh!
In the closet, I'm like,
you see it there too.
Yeah, right. I was like, hang on just a second. I'm engaging with this guy. Yeah, so that was, I'm like, this is one of those things where you could lose focus like that quick. Like I never need my vest. That never happens. I'm like, but that's the one time I didn't have it. Is the one time some guy's standing there with a nickel-plated 45, So I stepped back in and I just called my contact at SFPD, and that steakhouse happened to be like a SWAT hangout. So the SWAT team was like there, and they're like, that's our water and hole, So we went in and we got the guy, we took him out, and we got it done before the press found out or anything. Nobody in the restaurant knew anything. Like Nancy didn't know, and none of the folks in that party and the boys didn't know anything anyway, because they were 6 sheets to the wind. But but this is you lose focus for a second, and because you got out of your routine for a minute, and then next thing you know, man, things go sideways fast on you.
Yes.
But see, Andrew was an idiot, man. I was like, I got this. You don't got nothing, man.
It always happens that way. What does success mean to you now after everything that you've experienced across your career and your life?
Well, I was just talking to this with one of my buddies, right? So success means I could do whatever I want, whenever I want, with whoever I want. And it doesn't matter. Yeah, and how I want. There you go. That's what it is. I mean, it's literally, it's like we only do the stuff we want to do. I'm not doing anything that I don't want to do, and I don't do it with people I don't want to do it with. I mean, really, that's success, and I do all the fun stuff with the people that I want to be around. Like, I love being around you. Like, this is a success for me. Because here I am, I get to do this, right? I mean, yeah, it's super successful. I mean, I'm having fun. You're having fun, I hope.
Absolutely. I'm having a good old time. I was thinking about you leaving the best in the class.
Hey, yeah, that's just between you and me. We're not even,
Tell anyone.
Yeah.
And tell anyone. I mean, it's you and I and about 15,000 people.
Yeah, don't worry about that.
Actually, it's more. It's about.
No, right?
We just won't tell them. We won't tell them. That's so funny, though. It is. I love that definition of a success. And the older I get, the more that definition. That's how, when I feel most successful, when I feel like I'm not having to do something, and I'm ridding myself of all the shouldas. Number one, those are the mental things. But then when you get to live it out physically, where you're like, nah, I don't want to go to the barbecue, and I don't have to go because I don't have to be with Nancy Pelosi. It's not what I'm not part of my job.
I don't have to. I'm not living their right. I'm not living their life. I'm living mine.
Exactly, because you were going where everybody else wanted to go for a while and doing what they wanted to do, and 100%. Sort of finding your way around it. Because that's the other thing that I've had to learn to do is whatever circumstance my life is, that I found my moments. That's why I kind of went with mindset mastery moments, because I'm like, I want you to understand that mastering your mindset in moments in your life can actually add up over time, and you get big dividends and payback where you become a better version of yourself, or the version of yourself that achieves the goals and creates success the way you want to.
Yeah, that's so solid. And you don't know how to eat an elephant one bite at a time. I love that mindset moment. It's moment by moment, man. And then also gives you permission, like if you did slip up, you don't beat yourself up, man. I get the next moment.
And do it again.
Right. Moment is the next moment. Yeah, I love it. That's so good.
Yes. So you know what? We're down to mindset bites to go, and this is why you're going to have that link to come back and have a chat with me later.
Oh, you're so funny.
You get 90. No, I mean it. Just come in.
I know. I'm with you. It's just, you're like, no, you're coming back. That's the end of it.
Back. We need more. We got to get some more into the inner armor. That we haven't delved in enough. If you had 90 seconds to leave our listeners with one key insight, help them build perpetual resilience starting today, what would it be? I'm getting away from the microphone and the camera, and it's all you.
So funny. All right, so I'm just going to say when I landed at Weapons Company 36, which is the company, the unit that I went to Desert Storm with, and then I went to Panama with. That same day that I showed up, a new company commander showed up who ended up being my leadership mentor. He was Captain John Falchetti at the time, but now he's retired Lieutenant Colonel John Falchetti. And he gave a change of command speech, and I was a young corporal at the time, 21 years old, and he stood up in front of the formation and he said this: "Gents, ride hard, shoot straight, and never lie." And that was it. That was his whole speech. And it took me years to unpack it, but it's really been pivotal in how I live my life. So ride hard is give maximum effort in everything you do. Foot on the gas all the time. We're not going to half step or half effort anything. Shoot straight is about being skillful, right? I'm going to learn all the knowledge that I need to learn. I'm going to practice my skills. I'm going to hone whatever my professional skills are. And then, of course, the last thing is never lie, but you don't want to lie to other people. But most importantly, don't lie to yourself. Like, you got to be brutally honest with yourself. And if you can't do that, things go sideways fast on you. So ride hard, shoot straight, and never lie.
Woo! Ride hard, shoot straight, and never lie. I love it. We got all kinds of stuff. I'm going to have to be unpacking this episode. Many a days I got to get my notebook out and I sit up and I listen to the episodes and I'm writing my little notes. No one understands. I had someone commented and sent us feedback saying, these podcasts are masterclass that should be studied. And I'm like, you guys don't understand. These people are bringing their life, their journey, their career, all of it, and they've compiled it into 1 hour as much as we can. It is more than a masterclass. It is a master.
And I want to thank you for doing it because, listen, I have a radio show, which I do live stuff because I don't like to do the podcast. There's so much production and so much work that goes into it. I know you and your team, how much you're sacrificing to put it together and to do the production. And so I want to thank you for having the platform and giving me the opportunity to come on, and everybody else, and to share our journeys. But you're doing the hardest work by hosting the show and doing, week in and week out. And I think that goes unrecognized a lot of times, and your staff too, putting it all together, the editing and the just uploading. And it's so much work doing content creation.
It is. And the thing about it, a lot of times people think it's just that 1 hour of conversation. No, it's all the other things, from connecting with each other and getting on each other's schedule.
I think this has been going on for you and me for like 2 months. I feel like we've been dating for 2 months before we could finally
And the funny thing is, yours came up pretty fast, because I know it was like June, which I was so grateful. It came up pretty fast, because a lot of times it's like 3 months, sometimes based on people's schedule. Generally speaking, our podcast is running like 2 months. It's a 2 months. So it's at least 2.5 months. So when I get to about 1.5, I'm like, when it works at least 2.5, it's not bad, because I get attached to your work and what you're doing. And then now I have to wait.
But then you literally gotta like start on the next show prep. That's the other thing, but people don't understand how much, like, I know what I'm bringing, right? So my show prep is I watch some of your shows and I do a deep dive on you, but you have to know, you're asking me questions like, like you're intimately aware and know all the stuff that you're supposed to ask as an interviewer. The show prep is just crazy.
Exactly.
People.
So and I never thought about being an interviewer. I never sat there. I guess, no, maybe I did. And that's what I get for watching Oprah and say, oh, I want to be like her. But I didn't want to be an interviewer. It's funny. I wanted to be like Oprah, but I was not thinking do an interview.
Yeah. But you're very good at it. You're very good at it. You got stuff out of me that nobody else got out of me. So
thank you. And it's just so much fun. So you know what? We just went off in our own little world. That's what I love. I always say it's a show with me and my co-host, and you all get to listen in. But I know everyone wants to know how they can connect with you, and also grab a hold of that book, because that is a window into some of what you're teaching us today and what you work with leaders all over the globe. So, Andrew, tell us how to connect with you and where we get a copy of.
So if you go to my website, getwarriortough.com/podcast, that's up for all your listeners, getwarriortough.com/podcast. That'll get you into my ecosystem. The book is up there. Yes. And you could, there's just good stuff up there for everybody, right? You also, look, there's no fence around me. You could Google me. I'll be all over the Googles, right? But I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Instagram. I'm at Warrior Tough PhD on, is it Twitter now or is it X? It's X now. Also at Warrior Tough PhD on Instagram. It's the same on Facebook at Warrior Tough PhD. But if you, or you can do the old fashioned way. We still answer the phone in the office. That's crazy, isn't it? There's a phone number, but you can do that, or you can text us. Yeah. It's any of those things are, I always say there's no fence around me, right? Like, you can get a hold of me.
You can get a hold of him, definitely. And he's such a down-to-earth, just a wonderful human being. Aww. It's so hard to tell that you have done all these things you've done. I think if I were Nancy or even Hillary, that's the kind of personality I want around me. One that can cut up, but one that has my back and has everything under control.
They were great. I had great relationships with all of my protectees because but I'll tell you, I have to work at this every day. People are like, how are you like that? Because I do this work. Like I never quote preach anything I haven't practiced. I'll never unveil it to anybody. And I actually do this stuff, in order to get control of this stuff. Because when I was younger, I didn't like me. I didn't like who I was as a, 24-year-old Marine sergeant. I'd come home and my wife was like, listen, I'm not one of your Marines. You're not talking to me like that. And I was like, yeah.
That's the thing about you, though. That's what caught me. And I was like, gotta have it on. And I listened to watch some of your stuff because that grit and that tough exterior, that in my mind, could be my own mind, required to live and work the way you did for most of your life, to take it into this sort of sage-like,
right, the warrior philosophy.
PhD in theology, emotional intelligence, emotional sovereignty, which you bring your own word. If it's even deeper to me than intelligence, that's a 360. That's a 360 from what we would expect. So I commend that. The world needs to see that, and I feel like men and women who have served in the uniforms, which I serve, privately, work with retirees for career. A lot of them don't know which way to go after this life that you've lived. You created a purpose-grounded pathway with bringing that. It's just so beautiful, guys. Guys, you know I'll sign with it. So I'm like, this is one of my new best friends. He's in my arsenal. I'm going to pick on him and be like, hey, do you what up? These you over here? Can we go over here? Right? Yeah. Because it's such a common niche, and so many servicemen and women, whether it be police, and you did them both,
right,
don't know what to do after they retire.
No, because we're always told what the mission is. So we have to come up with our own mission, right? So we're past the time, but this is like the Wizard of Oz, right? That Dorothy, Scarecrow, and Tin Man, they were going to the Emerald City. That was their final. They had a vision, an ultimate target, and they all had their own identity of where, I'm a Scarecrow, I'm a Tin Man, but they all had their own purpose of why they were on the yellow brick road, right? Scarecrow wanted a brain, Dorothy wanted to get home, Tin Man wanted a heart, and that's why they're all following this path, going to this vision for their own, and they're all fulfilling their own purposes. So identity, purpose, and vision, is really where that's where the magic actually happens. And but it starts with identity, which we talked about, and then purpose. We can help walk you through it, and creating the Emerald City, where I have a 300-year plan. My Emerald City's so big it would take me 300 years to get there.
Go. That's what I'm talking about. And that's where it slows down at the 300-year.
Yeah, I think it's probably going up to 750 now, because I'm like, the way medical advances are happening, I might be around for that long,
So why not make a plan for it? Right. Oh, I love that. I love that. That's a good thought. And so for those men and women who've served us in uniform, in combat, etc., just look him up. And I'm saying this to you specially, that even if you just want to watch him from afar, because mentorship is so important, you might want to reach out and connect with Mr. Dr. Andrew Wittman, aka Andy. Andrew, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your experience.
Thanks for having me on. What a great time. What a great way to spend a night with you, man.
And I'm sure our listeners and viewers are walking away with strategies that they can put in play right now, today. Well, Disruptors, you can connect with Andrew again at getwarriortough.com. Everything to connect with him is in the description wherever you're watching or seeing this across social media. Get a copy of The Inner Armor, Perpetual Resilience. All of the links are right here in the show notes, wherever you're looking and watching this. I can't say that enough. And to all our listeners, remember, resilience is not a gift you were born with. It is a skill you can train. Keep mastering your mindset. Think, speak to become. I'm Dr. Alisa with my co-host, Mr. Dr. Andy Wittman, saying have a great evening. Oh my goodness, that was so good.
So much fun.